Hey everybody, welcome back to the Shoot the Veil podcast. Today we have an awesome guest, Chris J. Evans, a wedding photographer in LA who was initially from the Maui market, who has done hundreds of weddings a year, made hundreds of thousands of dollars doing it, and is someone who, quite frankly, I think we should all take a little bit of advice from. He's done it. He's been there. He's in the luxury market now and loves helping photographers break out of that middle zone of $3,000 to $5,000 into the, hey, maybe even the 5-digit, 10,000, 20,000 plus. This is an amazing episode, and we can't wait to dive right in. Here we go. Welcome to Shoot the Veil, a mobile app made by wedding photographers for wedding photographers to help inspire you to create and equip you to grow. I'm Sam.
And I'm Donnie, and this podcast is about wedding photography as an art and as a business. All right. Hey, Chris J. Evans in the house today. We're excited you're with us, brother.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Was super stoked to be here.
Awesome, man. And y'all, it is not Captain America, Chris Evans. It is Captain Camera.
There you go.
So here we go.
I love it.
Dude, I will always remember you as Captain Camera now, because when we first hopped on our first intro call, I'm like, wait a minute. This is not who I thought it would be.
Hey, Chris Evans is reaching out to us. Let's go.
You guys are blowing
It is cool,
up.
though. I do want to say it's cool that you reached out. I think I have a lot of respect for you. You saw something cool happening with Shoot the Veil, but that's your spirit. Like, you have a spirit of giving back. Unpack a little bit of that as we start diving in. Like, you're at a certain place in your career, and you love reaching back and helping other people get to those high places. Mm-hmm. So let's understand who you are, where you are, and why you want to help people get somewhere.
Oh, man. Thank you so much, guys. For sure. My name's Chris J. Evans. For the last 14 years, almost 15 now, I've had the honor and privilege of telling so many incredible love stories around the globe, from Lake Como to Santa Barbara, from Maui to Cabo, and nearly everywhere in between. It's been such a privilege, for sure. And after this many years, I want to give back. I want to educate the next gen of people coming up. I want to raise the bar of our industry. And when I saw you guys and found out about what you're doing and just your whole vibe and energy, I was like, I need to reach out to these guys because they're my speed and my vibe.
I feel the same way, man. I feel the same way. There's certain people you meet, you're like, absolutely. Same energy, same mission. So
I'm
to
sure,
have you.
Dude, you're Santa Barbara, Como, LA, Maui, all over the world. I'm sure that's where you started. Like, you picked up a camera and just immediately started at that level. Is that true?
Oh, totally. Yeah. First job, just right to the palace. No. In every industry, you have to pay your dues, especially in ours. I had never done weddings before. I had moved to Maui in 2010 with my wife and our first daughter. She was 2 at the time. Funny story. We sold everything we had. We moved to Maui with 8 duffel bags, $10,000 cash, and lived in a teeny tiny little house.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Total fresh start, right? And a girlfriend, about 6 months into when we were living there, a girlfriend of ours was getting married, and she's like, Chris, you got to come to Kauai and shoot my wedding. And I'm like, I don't want to shoot a wedding, boring. I couldn't imagine anything not less cool than shooting a wedding, right, at that time. And she's like, come on, your wife's one of the bridesmaids, your daughter's going to be the flower girl. I'm like, well, I don't want to mess it up. And she said, look, you can't mess this up if you try. And I'm like, okay, this is my love language. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So my first wedding was hers, and it was technically a destination wedding, which was pretty cool. Came home after that, totally fell in love with it, because we know about weddings. They're so dynamic. You got to be a portrait artist, a photojournalist, a product photographer. You got to be in the moment. You got to be a master of your craft. We can't mess up coming down the aisle, right? So that was really exciting. But to me, it was a one-off at that time. I was waiting tables, and I was waiting tables one night on this really cool couple. We start talking oh, you're so cool. What else are you into? I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get into weddings. I just did my first one. And they're like, are you good? And I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm pretty good. They're like, well, come to our house tomorrow. We're some of the biggest wedding planners on Maui. And we'd love to check out your price list and see some of your work. And I'm like, all right, cool. I go back to the computer to punch in their food. And I'm like, I don't even have a price list. Like this.
What's the portfolio?
Yeah. I have one wedding and I got some cool fashion work to show, and I just kind of jumped into it, and we connected, and they started feeding me beach weddings and small things, and we started going from there.
Wow.
That's an
insane.
amazing start.
So if you're waiting tables out there and you want to jump to Maui weddings, first of all, sell everything and move to Maui with your duffel bag.
Write that down.
Step one. Okay.
That is amazing. What was the progression from then on out? Like, you started with the beach weddings, and
yeah, for sure. So
you're mastering your craft, and what's next?
Things really started to elevate. They escalated pretty quickly. So they started feeding me weddings, right? And it was every client under the sun, right? Most of the grooms were in like linens, Tommy Bahama shirt. Like it was very low key, right? I didn't know any better. I know I'm making $500, $1,000 a pop. I'm like, all right, this is great. One less shift at the restaurant.
Right on.
And as I got 6, 7, 8 of those under my belt, and, I had a few that were in like some nicer hotels. I had some like, more what we consider a higher end or a lovely wedding, right? I had more portfolio. And then there's another venue there called the Haiku Mill, which they've been going through some growing pains with the city after doing business for 20 years. But they're like this. Look them up. They're one of the most amazing venues in the world. And at the time, they were like the spot. I met the owner at the restaurant again. That restaurant, Mama's Fish House, was like critical to my success.
Oh, I've been there. It's a great fish house. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing.
I can still sell you the special like without from memory for sure.
We did the road to Hana and then stopped there on our way back. It's the best road trip ever.
We
Y'all
did
need to go do that.
The pizza place halfway through Road to Hana.
Oh yeah, that one's legendary.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we did that.
No way.
Flatbread and paella there.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Gosh.
I'm getting hungry.
I am too.
Right? All right, keep going.
Yeah. So I meet Sylvia, the owner. She's this amazing woman, and she's like, I'll introduce myself, and we start talking, and my manager's like, hey, I know she's at the Haiku Mill. Like, let's buy her a round of drinks. Like on us, just tell her it's from you. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. So I had all this support. She's like, hey, come visit me at the mill tomorrow. Show me your work. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I go up there, showed her my work, and then we connected again. And she gave me a job on 4th of July. I think it was because nobody else wanted it, right? Mm-hmm. So I show up. It's an elopement. This really beautiful couple from Italy with their 12-year-old daughter. Okay, they spoke no English. I speak no Italian, all right? Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I know why I got this job now. I'm the only one crazy enough to have taken it, right? So, I'm trying to like get in the vibe, and I'm like, guys, I was like, Dolce & Gabbana. And they're like, oh, modello. I'm like, si, modello. Next thing you know, the bride just starts hitting all these like poses, and the groom's like just square jawing out. I'm like, yeah. So like, I created like my first like editorial look wedding. And then that subsequently that was my very first feature, and that was on Style Me Pretty. And this was probably 2012 when Style Me Pretty was like really like the creme de la creme.
It was popping off.
They still are, but like that was when they were like the it.
Yeah.
And from there on out, I became the top photographer at the Haiku Mill, which was like incredible progression.
Who put it on Style Me Pretty? Did you know you wanted to do that?
I just started submitting, I found them and I sent it in, and I had nothing to lose in those first few years. And I still consider everything I do every day, I have nothing to lose. Just let's send it. That
is so good. Cool. In a world where I feel like photographers, especially in my generation, we get stuck in the idea that Instagram and TikTok is the only way to market. But what really sticks out to me right now is the fact that you didn't mention either one of those at all when you went from you're starting and growing your business.
They didn't exist yet.
They didn't even exist yet. So it's 2010, 2012. The next year they're coming out, whatever. But you grew through your relationships and your connections. And I thought about this the other day. But what would us photographers have to do to market if we didn't have Instagram? And I feel like if we really were practice that, we'd see a lot more growth. And I don't know if you could speak to that at all, but it really seems like these connections that you are making and that it's nothing to lose, the worst I can say is no mindset, is what really progressed you pretty fast.
I mean, literally, people, they want to support the underdog always, right? And if you build, and one thing that was really special about Hawaii that I still hold so dear to my heart, and this is why I think I am who I am and how I am and like how I want to give back, is the idea of ohana. And that's it's our family. Mm-hmm. And in Hawaii and in Maui particularly, it's such a small wedding ohana. There's like 2 makeup artists. There's like 6 top photographers. There's like 2 florists, right? So every single job, I'm talking every single wedding I show up to, it's one of those people. So we're so close, right? So being in a small place like that with that family mentality, everyone was really able to uplift each other and help each other out. Then all my support at the restaurant and the manager's staff, and everyone saw my enthusiasm and my passion for what I was doing. And I think they just love to be part of that story. And like you said, relationships, if you're not getting in the room, making new relationships, I'm probably in that room and you're not there.
No, that's, dude, I will tell you, I actually bought a domain. I created a whole website for Maui weddings. We were Creation Studios. We did Memphis and regional weddings. We traveled the world, and I traveled to Hawaii for a couple of weddings, and I was like, I just want to work here. I was ready to live there for 6 months out of the year. Like, I just want to be there doing weddings. I could not get a single wedding. And it's because of what you just said. So the ohana thing is real. You don't break into Hawaii weddings from afar. They love each other and they support each other. And so you were there, you were waiting table, so you're in the family, and they'll push you like crazy. But if you're outsider, they don't push you.
But it's not just in Hawaii, too.
I was going to say, that's true of everywhere.
Even here in our Memphis market, there's no better way to success than getting plugged in with the people in the industry and serving them. During this Shoot the Veil 30 thing we've been doing for the past 2 weeks now, one of the big things we've pushed our participants, over 700 participants, to do is go and get connected with your wedding planners, get connected with your venue owners, serve them in any way. And within 1 week, we've already had participants say, I just got my first referral.
Yeah.
And it is that simple.
Yeah.
People love to help people. People with good hearts want to support each other.
And when you come with value, so like at this point now, I had done a few weddings. I started getting all this traction, right? So now it's like, okay, now I need to start that growth, right? So it was every hotel, it was every planner. Hey, do you guys need new branding? Do you need new headshots? Can I come shoot something? Can I shoot anything for free? Like how can I be of value first, even with nothing? I mean, I've done countless shoots and never got anything in return except maybe a great piece of portfolio. Some have turned into clients that are $100,000 a year clients. But you never know. But it's coming with value first and foremost, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Hey guys, real quick, just to interrupt the podcast. We were talking about ways to see this grow. We're so excited to have an impact in a real way on the wedding photography world. We want to see it grow and become all that it's supposed to be, and you become all that you're supposed to be. One of the coolest things that we could see you do right now is give a 5-star review, subscribe to the podcast. That tells Apples and Spotify's and all that it's cool, that other people might like it. So that would mean the world to us, and I think it would mean a lot to the wedding photography world. So thank you for your support. Now back to the show. Yeah, that's so huge. If you spend a little bit of energy giving back to planners and venues, the people that are above you as a photographer in the food chain, it will reap rewards for years and years and years. You could never do enough on Instagram or TikTok or Google Ads or anything that you would try to do with your website. You could never reach that level as compared to a wedding planner who loves you and sends you all of the stuff, a venue who loves you and sends you all the stuff.
If there's one thing you could take home from this podcast, I mean, we could end it right now. And if you put in these steps, you'd see tremendous just
Yeah.
blossoming in your business within a matter of weeks.
So the Ohana factor, make it happen wherever you are.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
amazing.
And you know, it's like, you know, Instagram and all the things. It's all what it really is. It's just it's a highlight reel, right? It's surface. It's like ta-da! It's just the shiny object, but it isn't the depth. It isn't the roots. It isn't, you know, how you like are making someone feel. It's not there. It doesn't exist there, right? So
Yeah.
once you're in the room and you're part of the community and in network events, and I know it's hard for some people because a lot of photographers, you know, they are self-described, you know, introverts, but you have to get in the room. You have to meet people. No one's going to sell you. Your work won't even sell you the way you can sell yourself, you know, and just by showing who you are and how you make people feel around you. That was huge for me.
I love that. Well, and you're kind of talking about brand. So when you show up, you're bringing a brand with you. You put a brand out there on the internet through social, through websites, through all that stuff. That's real. That's very important. But you are also your brand. And I know you care a lot about those details. Let's kind of pivot into that a little bit. So creating a brand, yeah, even his headphones are branded.
So good.
So creating a brand that people talk about. Walk us through some of that, because that's huge.
You know, once I started getting going, I quickly realized that, you know, in Maui, I had this little expression. Maui, photographers are to Maui as realtors are to wherever town you live in, right?
Yeah.
Everybody you know identifies as one, right? So there was so much competition, right? At the time, you know, there was like so much competition, and I realized early after deep diving, every photographer had the same watercolor splash, a scripted brush logo. It was the sea of same. All the work was like the same. Now, mind you, this is 2012 and I'm on a rock in the middle of the ocean. So perhaps certain trends were maybe a little behind, but I noticed that there was a sea of same. I had to create a brand that was going to cut through the noise, that was going to make myself an obvious, you want this or you want that, right? And I did that through my logo. I did that through the work I showed, and I did that through, most importantly, my personal style and my dress.
Okay.
So
can we unpack that a little bit? I want to go to the work I showed phrase. Notice, everybody, he didn't say through my work. He said through the work I showed, which implies to me there's your brand that you're pushing out there, and then there's probably a percentage of those photos that are important to the bride and groom, but you don't show those. So unpack that.
So everything really changed for me. Those first 2 years, 3 years, 2010 to the very beginning of 2013, I was trying to be a wedding photographer. Okay. My roots were a fashion photographer. Okay. This is where everything changed. I went to a workshop hosted on Maui, and it was the first time I did bridal editorial. We had models in wedding dresses. And I was like, oh my gosh, like it just clicked halfway through, because it was the first time I had shot that. It was the first, I had done fashion work, but never in bridal clothes. And then my light bulb went off. I was like, okay, I am no longer going to try to shoot weddings like a wedding photographer. I am a fashion photographer who shoots weddings. And from that moment forward, everything from my logo to my branding to my language to my graphics, everything changed from that minute forward. And I still show images from that shoot, because I really created some incredibly iconic work, in my opinion, that still holds weight today. And I still
huge.
Love those images.
Wow. So when you were true to yourself, it just clicked. It started working.
100%. And it was just, go for it, Sam.
I was just going to say, it reminded me of a quote. I can't remember who it's from, but the fastest way and the best way to be the best in your category is to make a new category.
Totally.
You can go to the top of it just like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
if I'm fighting in the sea of same, I'm just going to be another wedding photographer. But if I come out and I am the Chris J. Evans photography, and I focus, and my one-liner, my brand voice is I I make you look like you're in a fashion runway on your wedding day.
Yeah. And not only look like a model, but to feel like a model. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
It was the way I would push my brides, you know, that beautiful girls, women no matter who they were and what they brought to the table, I'm going to pick them up and just give them so much like beautiful praise and just hype them up that they feel so beautiful. And if I can get, you know, a girl who's not a model to like get her arms going like this and like waving under the veil and like losing herself in this magic, that to me was everything. And that was like really the secret sauce to me, like exploding.
Did you, when you just did that, it just reminded me, I'm so glad BTS behind the scenes photos weren't a thing when I was doing all that. I was constantly posing like a model in a magazine in front of brides.
To see that.
Did you do a lot of that? Like, how do you get a normal quote unquote person
I
into
still
model?
do it. My assistants,
100%.
My assistants will be like, "Really, Chris? Like that's what? Okay." I'm like. I've had brides that are like, how do you do that better than me? I'm like,
when we do the follow along with you, which we've got to do, we're just gonna have to rock that. That'll be like a whole segment of Chris modeling poses.
Chris J. Evans best poses.
Let's go, baby. I'm in.
Yeah. That's cool. There you
Hold
go.
the elbow, point to the sky, raise the neck.
Let's go. I'm not afraid.
I love it. Hey, that's a good one. That's a good one. It really is true though. When you feel like you get to like break away the chains of someone's insecurity on the wedding day, that's like a total win of its own.
Yeah.
I mean, they just get, not many people get to experience that.
You're doing something for their soul at that point.
Quite
like their
literally.
inner human being, like how they see themselves. You're helping them elevate that.
You know, I really feel that there's this transformative power of portrait photography that when you show someone that image of themselves in a way that they've never thought of themselves, that they're like, oh my gosh, I'm beautiful. Like I've had brides say that, and I've had grooms be like, whoa, I look freaking good. And I see it change. I see it change in their eyes. I see it change in their posture. I see it change in even how they communicate with the friends and family the rest of the day, right? And I mean, there is something very palpable to that. And, you know, to be part of that for people, it continues to drive me more than the success, more than the money, just making people feel amazing. And then
the fuel.
The side effect is then they look amazing and they tell their friends and
that's so good. I hope, you know, there's a lot of photographers who are, you know, the moment's going to happen in front of me. I'm going to capture whatever's happening. And if you're that photographer, I want you to kind of hear this, that you are capable of a little more than that. You as the photographer are capable of taking that couple to a place they didn't know existed. And the better you get at posing and leading people and drawing them to new levels, you can practice that. Like it's take posing classes, study prompts, look at what Chris is doing and think about how could I prompt someone into that. It's a service to your couples. It's not just, well, this is my style, I don't do that. It's a beautiful thing if you can add that to your documentarian style.
Right on. You don't have to walk up there and grab an elbow and twist it, but if you can direct them into a circumstance or even a moment that they wouldn't experience otherwise, I mean, you're going above and beyond.
Yeah,
it's really
for sure. And then, you know, I like to go, I always say you have to go above and beyond beyond that even, right? And a lot of times for me, that looks like when I'm doing a group photo, maybe it's like all their college friends, I will go through and I will put each person into their best body shape and create this really fun experience for each person. And they're like, oh my gosh, like we've been to so many weddings and no one's ever like cared about like us if we weren't the couple. I'm like, well, I care about all you guys. Let's go. And it's like, and it's that level of interaction.
And you just secured all their weddings.
Everyone, baby.
Every single one of them.
That's awesome. Okay. So so you discovered your brand. Let's get back into it. We talked about the poses that you show, the photos that you show the world, but there's also your own image, everything from your clothing, how you show up to a wedding, to the words you say on your website. How did that go from I'm a wedding photographer to I'm actually Chris J. Evans, fashion photographer who shoots weddings?
For sure.
What did that do?
So again, once I did that deep dive into what everybody's kind of logo and like branding was, I'm like, okay, let's look outside of that. You know, I want to be a brand. I want to attract these clients that are coming from LA, from Chicago, from New York, from Dallas. You know, I want very cosmopolitan clients that are coming to the islands, right? So I knew that I needed my brand to look similar to the brands that they're already invested in and seeing, right? So I did not look at other wedding industry people for my logos. I looked at fashion brands. I looked at, you know, big like sports drinks. I looked at like action sports. I looked at everything except weddings, right? So it came down to, I wanted bold color scheme, and I saw this Prada Sport like cologne ad or something, and I was like, that's it. There was red, black, and white. I found what font it was. Thank you, Google. We had Google.
Oh, yeah.
I found what font it was. I did Chris J. Evans, big, bold Prada font in red, black, and white. And then just put that over some of these editorial images that I had shot from that thing. Made a magazine. I did like a 20-page magazine from that shoot. Gave it to all the wedding planners, all the hotels. I said, hey, here's a coffee table book. I spent a lot of money on it, but the investment was huge. It just, again, boom, boom, boom. And within 3 years, I was the top house in Hawaii. We were doing over 100 weddings a year. Hawaii Magazine named me the top wedding photographer in the state 3 years in a row. And it was just like wildfire.
Wow.
Holy smokes,
That's
man.
crazy.
Okay, maybe just a little brief, I want to dive into that really fast. How are you doing 100 weddings a year?
It's Maui, so it's year round. Now, mind you, some of these were, 2 hours on the beach. Some of them were hotels. Some of them were the big whoppers, right? But it was just every 3 days, putting on my suit, going to another venue, driving to every one and driving home and sleeping in my bed every night. It was incredible. To where my career's gone now, it's wildly different now, but it was crazy times.
So, Chris, you are now in LA. What would you tell? Now, remind me, you moved to LA in 2020, right? In the heat of it?
March 14th, 2 weeks before it started.
Oh my gosh, that's great!
Literally the week of COVID.
This will be the next chapter. Yes, this is a great story.
Okay, so what would you tell Chris J. Evans when it comes to reestablishing I don't know if you had to reestablish it. It sounds like you had a very strong brand, but how did you grow in LA, coming in from Maui and almost essentially starting over? We had a question on a live call the other day, and they say, I'm moving from Pennsylvania to Florida. What should I do? Yeah. What would you tell your younger self?
All right, so let's just rewind a little bit. I'm going to lead you up through this whole thing because it's a wild ride. So
let's do it.
Come 2018, I was experiencing my first kind of phase of burnout. I'd been going strong 100 plus weddings a year for a while, from 2016 till that point. So I was like, okay, I need to move from this volume operation into a more luxury operation. So, I doubled my rates, which I thought would like clear out half the work. 2019, I had the same work. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So like
you're just richer. That's a great problem. Good job.
It was a good problem. So I was like, okay, I got to go even higher. So I kept moving things up, and then I started building out my team, right? So I could sell them for I could still fit, as many shoes as possible, right? Then I finally come the mid 2019, I was like, okay, my work as a service provider, I'm continually getting better, but my work as an artist, I felt like started to stagnate because I wasn't inspired any longer by my surroundings, which is it's
a thing.
It's a thing, and I'm so lucky because my career was definitely the envy of so many people, but I could not shoot the same palm tree one more time. I could not shoot this property one more time or I was going to explode, right? I was ready to move on. So this is the advice going into your person. The middle of 2019, I started reaching out to California planners and started to build community, like just through Instagram at this point. Hey, what's up? I'm Chris Evans, blah, blah, blah. I'd love to connect. I might be moving back to California next year. I just started building relationships before I even went, right?
Boom.
So then come 2020, March, we pack up everything, we sell everything, double my mortgage, move to our dream house. We're like, oh, I'm so excited, hit the ground running. I'm going to just jump into every networking thing, go to every wedding party. I'm going to keep this momentum because I'm coming off high. 2019 was my biggest year I ever had. I sold over 600K in wedding photography, which was like,
oh my gosh,
just, for me, it was wildest dreams come true. So we land 2 weeks later, screeching halt.
Oh my gosh. No more parties, no more events.
It's like, when I say screeching halt, and then mind you now, 2020 was everybody's biggest year we were ever going to have, So within a matter of 2 weeks, I had, and all my work was back on Maui, right? So I was just going to eat the travel and go back and forth on my own time. So within 2 weeks, as we know, everything postpones.
Wow.
Okay. So everything, all of a sudden, all this money, a few people wanted retainers back, which is a whole nother topic, but okay, let's just get through it. I was like curled up in the fetal position, like we're going to lose the house, every 10 years of work down the drain.
Yeah.
Just, because I have 2 daughters and my wife and big boy bills at this point in my life. Mm-hmm. And as most of us do. So I was like really freaking out. But once the initial, all the heaviest sets, we were talking about surfing earlier. Once the heaviest sets kind of subsided and there was some break, I was like, okay, let's just refocus. Okay. So I use this time to go real deep. I had never taken a 10,000 foot view of my company because from the gate, what I was doing, it just kept working. It just kept doing it, right? My logos sort of evolved over those years. We can talk about that later too. But at this point, I took like this really huge 10,000 foot view of my company and said, okay, I want to attract the entire next tier of the industry. I want to be doing $1 million weddings. I want to be working with the top planners. I want to be going all over the world. Like, how can I do that? So again, I started searching who all the top people first in our field.
Market research. Okay.
All of, Jose Villa, KT Mary, Elizabeth Messina, Eric McVeigh, just the top names in our business, right? Seeing like, what's their branding look like? And once I established the things that they were all doing that were similar again, how am I going to be different yet again? Okay. So, and it's not better. It's never, ever, ever, you can never think to yourself, how can I be better than anyone else? Because that's a race to the bottom. It's how can I be different? How can I offer, do you want this or do you want this? And they have to be two completely different things. Yeah. So I took that time. I hired, up until this point, I'd done all my own graphic design, all my own websites, everything, total in-house shop. I hired an amazing designer, an amazing graphic designer, an amazing website builder, and I invested the money. And in a time where there was no work coming in, was kind of scary.
That's brave.
I went into cocoon mode, and when I relaunched, this was right in the beginning of 2021 when everything started opening up again. Yeah. And all my work was back in Maui. So all these planners on Instagram that I had been following and engaging with, they see me every other day on a plane going back to Maui, on a plane going back to Maui, back and forth. Oh, Chris does destination. Chris, then all of a sudden, Chris, I got a wedding in Cabo. I got a wedding in Italy. I got a wedding here. It just, by happenstance, skyrocketed.
Hey guys, if you're already a member of Shoot the Veil, feel free to skip through this. If you're not, I want to talk to you about something that could change your career as a wedding photographer. Shoot the Veil is a new platform that is built by wedding photographers for wedding photographers. This platform has everything you need, from courses from creators you love, posing and planning, follow-alongs, and exclusive interviews with some of the world's best wedding photographers. And on top of that, we give away some crazy cool gear every month. If you're not in, go check it out and download it now.
Yeah, that's amazing. When everybody else is pulling back, this is a principle. When everyone else is pulling back in fear, if you can start building your launch you got to invest. Like, it literally takes money, but it takes a lot of energy. If you can be the one that just always know we're going to come out of whatever tragedy the world seems to be in, if there is another side, and if you can not operate out of fear, you're going to be the leader. Whenever the things break loose, you're going to be the one who has been pushing and is ready to push harder.
That's good. And one thing I want to take out of that, you said you looked at your business from a 10,000 foot view for the first time. I think there's a moment that a lot of photographers reach where they're in the $3,000 to $5,000 range, and they're just staying busy. They'll come home from the wedding, they edit, they respond to the leads, they go to the next wedding, and they get in this loop. And in a lot of times, busyness can be the one thing that halts growth. Because staying busy in itself is a dopamine addiction, and it can be the absolute opposite of growth. But you took a step out, you looked at the bird's eye view of your business, and you really game planned in this quiet season. I just think that's so cool, and it's healthy. And so I guess one question I had for you is, how can a photographer avoid burnout? Or let me rephrase the question. What's the fastest way to burn out as a wedding photographer?
Yeah.
I think it's doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. It's like the definition of insanity, right? So it's like, now look, some people, they're very happy with that routine. And some people, and I've learned the hard way, because I'm such like a builder and connector, and I want everyone to kill it. And I no longer just offer unsolicited advice, because that's my toxic trait. But some people,
I love that stuff.
Some people are so happy where they are, right? But for those that want more, that are starting to burn out, you have to take that moment, and you have to really answer one question and one question only, and that's, what do I want? Like, truly, clearly, granularly. Do I want to live in this? Do I want to live in a big house? Do I want to live near the beach? Do I want to have multiple houses? Do I want to just stay where I'm at? Do I want savings? Do I want a Rolex? Like, whatever it is, right? What do you want? Because until you answer that question for yourself, you're literally a ship in a storm with no sails. You're just bobbing all around.
Yeah.
That is so good. That's exactly what I tell people as well. Like, zoom out from the business. What do you want from your life? How can your business be a stepping stone to the life that you want? Shooting weddings is great, but there's a motivation that comes from wanting something that will benefit everything else.
Oh, for sure.
And it's just the truth, man. It's just the truth.
So I want to do, I'm just saying, like, now from 100 weddings a year, I want to do 12 weddings a year that are incredible, that support my lifestyle and then some, and that takes a lot. It takes a lot of investing in your brand, and a lot of understanding the market, and a lot of, it just takes a lot of things, and of identifying what you want.
Yeah. Okay. I could take it down the road of like creator relator. I think relators don't burn out as easily, because every wedding's a new relationship, and they thrive on relating. So that's, relators do that. You're a creator, obviously. You love the epic shots and the like driving it toward this drama, the fashion, all that. So I was that way too a bit, and I noticed the burnout happen. So I think different photographers are different ways. But if you're thriving on creativity and you hit a wall, what would you suggest? Do you just need to start doing weird stuff? Do you need to start doing a different type, different lens? Like, if you're a creator, how do you avoid it?
I love that. So it was a few years back when I was kind of starting to feel that way too. I took one of my guys and I was like, hey, you're basically lead today. Okay. I'm going to be the second, right? You get all the must-gets. I need to look at this day from a different point of view, right? And that exercise was so huge for me. Just like, obviously I was still point on like, the family pictures and like the things where I had to be point, but I'm like, look, you shoot this, I'm going to shoot something wildly different and off the wall. Right. That was one really amazing way for me to like kind of get reignited with some fresh creativity. And then 2 years ago, I got asked to do a wedding. They already had a photographer booked, but they love me and my style as well, so they wanted to hire me as well. And this was
That's crazy.
This was a huge luxury wedding. Photographer A, his full asking rate. I got my full asking rate. This was an amazing thing, right? So first thing first, I called the other photographer, introduced him myself. I say, hey, what's up? I'm Chris. Looks like they want to engage me too on their wedding. I want you to know I'm a total team player. They came to you first. I know you have history with the family. Like, what do you love to shoot? And you cover everything you love. What doesn't excite you as much? Let me shoot all of that. Oh, I love that. So we started this amazing dialogue, right? So we both showed up instantly. He's like, dude, you're like Batman. He's like, I'm Batman and you're like Bruce Wayne. I'm like, I love this. This totally works for me. So I got to create a body of work on that wedding, unlike anything I'd ever gotten to before, because, there was a moment where the bride, who was riding in on her horse, this is just,
here we go.
This is just, what was going on. I normally would have been at the end of the aisle, right? I got to be over at the bridge. I got her riding over the bridge on her horse, a photo I could not have ever made. And I don't even think one of my seconds could have made it, just because it required such a split-second decision to get in that spot. So going in as a team with no ego and putting myself into positions I'd never been into opened up a whole new level of creativity for me. And now I see weddings from that POV a lot differently.
I love that.
New wedding trend alert. Can we please have two? That'd be so fun.
I mean, but seriously, if you're at the top of your creative career and you're excited, the best thing you can do is to hire someone in to shoot the basics and you get crazy. Or if you don't have someone to hire, like you just did, you can kind of offer yourself, hey, I'll be your second shooter today to another great photographer in your area.
Yeah. I love that.
That's amazing. I love that.
You remember you telling me about that years ago. That's what you did.
Yeah.
And it changed up a lot of things from you.
Yeah. I brought a guy in full time to be the guy who does the basic stuff, the must-haves, like you said. Yeah. And I just became the second all the time. And it was a new level of our careers together because he suddenly was part of a company that was amazing and offering interesting, weird stuff that he couldn't have done on his own. I couldn't either. Mm-hmm. I love that, man. It's definitely, if you're at the top of your creative career, this is a move. This is a definite move.
Yeah. Well, Chris,
it kind of just boils down to just no ego, total humility. Like, we're serving at the pleasure of these clients, right? Let's go and have fun and make art together. Like, take pictures with a bro. Like, cool. Let's go.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Chris, we have the After the Pod coming up, and I'm really excited. I want to dive into what it takes to shift out of the I'm a $5,000 photographer into the 10. I think we have a lot of those listeners. I think it's going to be a really fun second hour. But as we finish up, I want some Chris Evans hot takes on some things. We're just going to have some fun here for a minute.
Let's go, baby.
Let's do it, man. All right. I want to know what your biggest pet peeve, wedding photographer pet peeve is. Go.
When any front of house vendor shows up not dressed to the nines for a wedding event. Like, dress up, wear a suit, look nice. If I see another videographer roll up in khakis and a checkered shirt with New Balance shoes on, I'm going to send him home and put one of my guys in on video.
Give me your camera and go home.
Yeah.
just by.
I want to go a little bit deeper. Why do you feel that way? I also feel that way, but I want to pick your brain a little bit.
How you present is the most immediate representation of the value of your brand. When I walk into I've met the couples before. They know me. Their parents haven't met me. Their friends haven't met me. When I walk into that bridal suite in the morning and I'm in my custom, beautifully tailored suits from Endeavored Threads, and I'm representing that, if I'm going to be the fashion guy, I'm the fashion guy all the way. And when I walk in,
yes, sir,
and all their eyes light up and their mom's eyes light up, and they're like, the trust and the value is established before I even take my camera out of the bag.
That's so
Yes.
huge. I loved that when I went to follow you on Instagram, like most pictures were you hanging out with your custom suit guy.
I love this is the Instagram highlight. If you haven't already, look up his Instagram. You're gonna get a feel for it. Imagine you're at a wedding and this guy shows up with a camera. You know their couple did not cheap out, and you know they got the best that they could.
Mm-hmm.
If Chris J. Evans pulled up in sweatpants with a black T-shirt and Air Force, you're not gonna give him a second thought.
Yeah.
But now you're sticking out. It's marketing. It's marketing for one, but it's also, like you said, it's brand recognition.
Well, it's also respect for the day, you know, like this is a black tie event. You know, they've asked every one of their guests to show up in this specific attire to create a vibe, right? A wedding is the sum of all the parts. And if there's one fish out of water, it can sink the entire ship. Always.
So good.
Okay.
So good.
All right. So go through your closet. Do you get a new suit for every wedding? What's happening in your suit closet?
I have some suits.
How many suits do you have?
I think I'm at like over 30 at this point.
Oh my gosh.
But now look, mind you, for wedding day, I have one of 4 options for wedding day, right? I've got my black, I got my navy, right? And then I got my tuxedos. But I'm never going to be, I'm all like my fits highlight on Instagram. This is all my party suits. These are my networking event suits, right? That's part of that brand. But on the wedding day, I'm going to be in black or navy. Unless there's a mood board that the couple is calling for something else, I will always play along to what they want their guests to arrive in.
That's awesome.
That's so good.
Yeah, so good.
Next hot take. What's a wedding trend you want to see go away, specifically for in the photography realm? What's your opinion of crooked horizon lines or blurry photos?
That's exactly what I was going to say. I love blurry photos, but let's just make horizons straight again.
Okay, I hear you.
I mean, I've done it, but I don't think a lot of people doing it know that it's called the Dutch angle, and it's a technique used to create tension.
Yeah.
It's a technique. Let me say this again for those in the back. It is a technique used to create tension and uneasiness.
Yes.
Why do you want a photo of a beautiful, happy love story to create tension and uneasiness? That's just me.
Yeah. So good.
I'm clipping that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, we're definitely clipping that.
Oh my gosh. Well, Chris, this has been so much fun. So much just sustenance in this one episode. Let's jump right into this after the pod and go. Have a ball, man. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
So after the pod, we're going to talk about how do you go from mid-level basic to wherever you want to go at the highest end, however far you want to. You're going to walk us through how to do that step by step. We're going to talk about packaging. How do you put stuff in a package? Do you talk about packaging up front on your website, or do you hide it? Like, we want to get your opinion on some of the stuff. And the reason I'm bringing that up is every podcast listener probably has wondered that to themselves.
Yes.
If you're a wedding photographer, you're wondering, how do I grow, number one, but how do I deal with packaging and comparing to other people? So we're going to dive into that. If you're in the app, if you're in Shoot the Veil, that's going to be available to you. If you're not, that's a reason alone to jump in, because Chris is going to give you the masterclass on how to do that.
For sure. And before we jump into there, to anyone who doesn't make it that far, make sure you follow me on Chris J. Evans Photo, chrisjevans.com. And I've got all kinds of fun education launching this year as well. So reach out and let's party together.
Amazing.
Absolutely. We'll put those links in the description.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.